My mother's voice still echoes in the sterile hospital room. Your sister just never has these emergencies. I'm Diana Wesley. I'm 28 years old. I'm a pediatric nurse, and I was lying in a hospital bed with 3 broken ribs, a concussion, and a 7-month-old baby who needed someone to hold her while I couldn't even sit up without screaming. But here's what hurt more than the physical pain, more than the metal that crumpled around me on Interstate 94, more than the morphine drip that barely touched the edges of my agony. My parents, wealthy, comfortable, living in their 4-bedroom colonial, refused to take care of my daughter for 48 hours. Not couldn't, refused. We have bridge club tomorrow, my mother said, her voice tight with that particular brand of annoyance reserved exclusively for me. And your father has his investor meeting. Emma never puts us in these positions. Emma, my golden child sister, 25, beautiful, living her best life as a lifestyle influencer, while I worked 60-hour weeks wiping noses and saving children's lives for $47,000 a year. I stared at the ceiling tiles, counting the perforations while my daughter's cries filtered through my phone speaker. My body was broken, my car was totaled, and my parents were worried about bridge club. That's when I made 2 clicks on my phone that would change everything. The first click hired an emergency nanny service, $200 a day I didn't have. The second click, I canceled the automatic payment on my parents' mortgage. The mortgage I'd been paying for 3 years. The mortgage they didn't know I'd been covering since my father's commercial real estate venture collapsed in 2022. The mortgage that cost me $2,400 every single month while I lived in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment and drove a 12-year-old Honda. $2,400 times 36 months, $86,400. I closed my eyes and waited, because I knew exactly what was coming, and this time, for the first time in my entire life, I wasn't going to save them. Before we dive into how I set myself free, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy this story. Where are you watching from? Drop your city below in the comments. Now let me take you back to where it all began.
I need you to understand something about my family before you judge what I did. I was 7 years old the first time I realized I was different from Emma. We were at my grandmother's funeral, my father's mother, a woman who smelled like lavender and made the world's best apple pie. Emma was 4, crying because she was scared of the casket. My mother spent the entire service in the lobby, rocking Emma, whispering that everything would be okay. I sat alone in the front pew, between my father and my grandfather, William Wesley, hands folded in my lap, tears running silently down my cheeks. After the service, my mother pulled me aside. "You are so brave today, Diana, so mature. Your sister needs more attention. You understand that, don't you? You're the strong one." I was 7, and I learned that being strong meant being alone. But my grandfather saw me, really saw me. "Your grandmother would be proud of you, little bird," he said that night, using his nickname for me. "But it's okay to need someone too. Don't forget that." I never did forget, but I also never asked, because in my family, asking for help was weakness, and weakness belonged to Emma, the delicate one, the special one, the one who deserved protection. I became the fixer, the responsible one, the daughter who didn't cause problems. When I was 16, my father's first business failed, a strip mall development that went bankrupt when the anchor tenant pulled out. I watched him age 10 years in 6 months, watched my mother's face tighten with barely concealed contempt every time he walked into a room. "We might lose the house," I overheard her tell her sister on the phone. "I married a man who promised me security, and now we're 1 bad month from ruin." They didn't lose the house. My father found investors, restructured, rebuilt, and I learned that in the Wesley family, financial failure was unforgivable. Success was survival. So when I graduated nursing school at 22, I didn't celebrate. I calculated. I worked night shifts at County General, picked up overtime, lived in a studio apartment with a Murphy bed and a hot plate. I saved every penny I could because I knew, somewhere deep in my bones, that my father's success was temporary. I was 25 when he called me. "Diana, sweetheart, I need to talk to you about something." We met at the coffee shop near his office. He looked older than 56, his hair more gray than brown, his hands trembling slightly as he stirred his coffee. "The development deal fell through," he said quietly. "The investors pulled out. I've got 30 days before the bank starts foreclosure proceedings on the house." My heart dropped. "How much do you need?" "I need someone to take over the mortgage payments, just temporarily."
6 months, maybe a year, until I get back on my feet. How much? $2,400 a month. I made $3,800 a month after taxes. Rent was $1,100. Student loans were $400. That left me with $1,300 for food, utilities, gas, insurance, and life. "I'll do it," I said. He grabbed my hand. "You're saving us, Diana. Your mother doesn't know how bad it is. Emma doesn't need to know. This stays between us." "Of course. I'll pay you back, every penny, with interest." I believed him because I needed to believe that sacrifice meant something, that being the strong one would eventually earn me the love Emma got for simply existing. I paid that mortgage for 3 years. 3 years of eating ramen and shopping at Goodwill. 3 years of saying no to friends who wanted to go out, to coworkers who invited me to dinner, to every small pleasure that might have made my life feel less like survival. And through it all, my parents lived their comfortable suburban life. My mother redecorated the living room twice. My father joined a country club. Emma moved back home after college to find herself while posting Instagram photos from Napa Valley and Tulum. Not once did my parents ask how I was managing. Not once did they acknowledge what I was doing for them. Because in their minds, I was the strong one, and the strong one doesn't need acknowledgement. The strong one just keeps carrying the weight. When I got pregnant at 27, unplanned, the father already gone, my mother's first words were, "Well, this is unfortunate timing." Not, "Congratulations," not, "How can we help?" Just disappointment that I'd complicated their narrative. I had my daughter, Lily, alone in a delivery room with only my grandfather beside me. He held my hand through every contraction, wiped my forehead, whispered that I was the strongest person he'd ever known. "Your grandmother would have loved her," he said, tears in his eyes as he held his first great-grandchild. My parents visited the hospital for 20 minutes. My mother held Lily awkwardly, commented that she looked red, and left to make her hair appointment. Emma didn't visit at all. She was in Cabo. That should have told me everything I needed to know, but I kept paying, kept sacrificing, kept believing that eventually they'd see me. The change didn't happen overnight. It was gradual, insidious. It started about 6 months after Lily was born. I'd return to work, 12-hour shifts, 3 days a week because that's all I could manage with childcare costs. My grandfather watched Lily on my work days. He was 82 but sharp as ever, and he loved every minute with his great-granddaughter. I called my mother one Tuesday afternoon. "Hey, Mom, I have to work a double on Saturday. They're short-staffed. Could you watch Lily? Just for the day. Grandpa has his doctor's appointment." Silence. Then, "This weekend? Diana, we have plans." "It's just one day, please. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important." "Why can't you find a babysitter?" "Because babysitters cost money I don't have." Another pause. "You know, your sister manages her schedule beautifully. She never seems to have these conflicts." Something cold settled in my chest. "Emma doesn't have a child." "No, but she has responsibilities. Her brand requires constant attention." Her brand, her Instagram account where she posted photos of smoothie bowls and sunset yoga. So that's a no? I'll check with your father. She never called back. I paid a babysitter $120 I didn't have and worked the double. The next month, Emma announced her engagement to a man she'd been dating for 4 months, a finance guy named Brandon who wore expensive watches and talked about his portfolio. The family dinner to celebrate was at Ruth's Chris. My father picked up the check, $400 for 6 people. I sat there, cutting my filet into tiny pieces to make it last longer, calculating how many mortgage payments that dinner represented. Emma glowed, showing off her ring, 2 carats, emerald cut, probably $15,000. "Brandon's so generous," my mother gushed. "He says Emma deserves only the best." I looked at my own hands, chapped from constant hand-washing, no ring, no manicure, the nails I'd trimmed short to keep them out of the way while changing diapers and starting IVs. "When's the wedding?" I asked. "We're thinking destination," Emma said, her eyes bright. "Maybe Tuscany or Santorini, somewhere beautiful." "That sounds expensive." "Oh, we're not paying for it," Emma laughed. "Mom and Dad are covering it. Right, Daddy?" My father smiled. Anything for my little girl. I felt something crack inside my chest, but I smiled because that's what the strong one does. 2 weeks later, my mother called. "Diana, we need to talk about the wedding budget." "Okay." "Your father and I have been discussing it, and we think it's important that both our daughters contribute. It's only fair." I almost laughed. Contribute to Emma's wedding? "Family helps family, Diana. We helped you with, well, we've been there for you in your situation. My situation, my daughter, my life that existed as some kind of shameful footnote to Emma's highlight reel. How much?" "We're thinking $5,000 from you would be appropriate." $5,000, 2 months of mortgage payments, 4 months of my rent. "I'll think about it," I said. "Don't think too long. We need to put down deposits." I didn't contribute. I told my mother I couldn't afford it. She didn't argue. She just stopped calling. The invitations to family dinners dried up. The group text messages, I was mysteriously left off. The photos Emma posted of family time that somehow never included me or Lily, I was being erased, slowly, systematically. And still, I paid their mortgage, because some part of me believed that if I stopped, I'd lose them completely, that my value to this family was measured only in what I could provide. My grandfather saw it happening. "They're taking advantage of you, little bird," he said one Sunday while Lily napped on his lap. "They're just stressed about the wedding." "No," his voice was firm. "They're using you, and I'm ashamed of my son for letting it happen. I can handle it, Grandpa. I know you can, but you shouldn't have to." He was right, but I wasn't ready to hear it yet. 3 months before the accident, Emma came to my apartment, unannounced, the first time she'd visited in over a year. "Cute place," she said, looking around my cramped living room with barely concealed pity. "Very cozy. What do you need, Emma? Why do you assume I need something? Can't I just visit my sister?" I waited. She sighed. "Okay, so Brandon and I found the perfect venue in Positano. It's $30,000 for the week, but it includes accommodations for immediate family, and I can't go to Italy, Emma." "What? Why not?" "I have a 7-month-old and a job, and I can't afford it." "Mom and Dad are covering the resort. You just need your flight." "I can't afford the flight or the time off." Her face fell. "But you're my sister. You have to be there. I have to pay my rent. I have to feed my daughter. You're always so dramatic about money." And there it was, the contempt, the complete inability to see beyond her own reality. "Get out, Emma." "Diana, get out." She left, and I sat on my second-hand couch and cried until Lily woke up crying too. That was 3 months before the accident. 3 months before everything burned down. The accident happened on a Wednesday. I was driving home from a double shift, exhausted, the kind of tired that makes your bones ache. A semi-truck ran a red light at the intersection of Jefferson and Highway 94. I saw it coming, had maybe 2 seconds to react. I remember turning the wheel, remember the sound of metal crushing metal, remember the airbag exploding into my face. Then nothing. I woke up in the ER where I worked. My colleague, Jennifer, was standing over me, her face pale. "Diana, can you hear me?" I tried to nod. Pain exploded through my chest. "Don't move. You have 3 broken ribs and a concussion. You're going to be okay, but you need to stay still." "Lily," I managed. "She's with the emergency contact you listed, your neighbor." Mrs. Chen. Sweet 70-year-old Mrs. Chen, who sometimes watched Lily for an hour when I ran to the grocery store. I need someone to take her." Jennifer squeezed my hand. "We'll figure it out. Let me call your family." I watched her step outside, watched through the glass as she made the call, watched her face change from professional calm to confused concern. She came back in. "Your mother says she can't take Lily. She says she has bridge club and your father has meetings and they don't feel equipped to handle an infant." The morphine couldn't touch the pain of those words. "What?" she said. Jennifer's voice was soft. "She said your sister never has these emergencies, that maybe you need to have better support systems in place." I stared at the ceiling, at the fluorescent lights that I'd worked under for 6 years saving other people's children, while my own was being passed around like an inconvenience. "Call my grandfather," I whispered. I did. "He's on his way, but Diana, he's 82. He can't provide full-time care." "I know." Jennifer pulled up her phone. "I'm going to call Safe Haven Childcare. They do emergency placements. It's expensive, but..." "Do it. $200 a day. I don't care. Do it." She made the arrangements. I lay there, broken, calculating. 4 days in the hospital, minimum, $800, plus the ER bill, plus the ambulance, plus my car insurance deductible, plus the mortgage payment due in 5 days. My phone buzzed, a text from my mother. "I hope you understand we're not trying to be difficult, we're just not set up for this. Feel better soon, heart emoji, as if that made it okay." I opened my banking app, found the automatic payment scheduled for my parents' mortgage. My finger hovered over the cancel button. 3 years, $86,400, and they couldn't take my daughter for 48 hours? I pressed cancel. Then I texted my mother. "I understand completely. Thank you for making things so clear." She responded immediately. "Glad you're being reasonable about this. Let us know when you're home and we'll send flowers. Bouquet." I turned off my phone. I'm going to pause here for a second. If this story is resonating with you at all, or if you've ever felt the pain of being misunderstood by the people who are supposed to love you most, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe. It really lets me know that sharing these hard stories is worth it. My grandfather arrived 2 hours later. He walked into my hospital room looking every one of his 82 years, his face gray, his hands shaking as he took mine. "Little bird," he whispered, "I'm so sorry." "It's not your fault, Grandpa." "I heard what they said, what Patricia told your colleague." His voice broke. I'm ashamed of my son and his wife and what they've become." "It's fine. I've arranged care for Lily." "It's not fine." He sat down heavily in the chair beside my bed. "I need to tell you something I overheard yesterday." My chest tightened. "What?" "I was at your parents' house, dropping off some documents your father needed. I let myself in through the back. They knew I was coming. I heard them in the living room, with Emma and Brandon." "Grandpa!" "They were talking about selling the house." The world tilted. "What?" "Your father said the market is hot, that they could get $700,000 for it, maybe more. pay off the mortgage and pocket the rest. My heart stopped. But I've been paying that mortgage. I know, but they don't have it in your name, do they? No, Dad said it was easier to keep it in his name, that he'd reimburse me. My grandfather's face hardened. Patricia said they were going to give the proceeds to Emma for her dream wedding in Positano, 300,000, plus another 100 for a down payment on a house for Emma and Brandon. The morphine wasn't enough. Nothing was enough to dull this pain. They were going to sell the house I've been paying for, give my money to Emma, and never tell me. I'm so sorry, little bird. Did they mention me at all? His silence was answer enough. Then Emma said, "What about Diana?" And your mother said, "Diana will be fine. She always is. Besides, she made her choices." My choices. Getting pregnant, having a baby alone, working myself to exhaustion to keep their roof over their heads while they planned to give my sacrifice to my sister as a wedding gift. I canceled the mortgage payment, I said quietly. My grandfather's eyes widened. Then, slowly, he smiled. Good. It was due in 5 days. Good. They'll get a notice in about a week. They'll panic. They'll call me. What are you going to do? I looked at him, really looked at him, this man who'd stood by me when no one else did, who'd held my hand through my daughter's birth, who was the only person in my family who'd ever truly seen me. I'm going to let them panic, then I'm going to talk to a lawyer. About what? About the fact that I've been making payments for 3 years, that I have bank records proving it, that legally I may have claim to the property as a partial owner.
My grandfather leaned back. You've been thinking about this. I have 3 broken ribs and nothing but time to think. He squeezed my hand. Your grandmother would be proud of you. I'm not trying to destroy them, Grandpa. I can't keep saving people who won't even hold my daughter when I'm broken in a hospital bed. You're not destroying them. You're setting yourself free. Over the next 3 days, my phone exploded. First, the bank notice, then my father's call. 15 missed calls. Then my mother's texts, increasingly frantic. Diana, there's been a mistake with the mortgage payment. Diana, please call us. This is urgent. Diana, the bank is threatening foreclosure proceedings. We need to talk now. I didn't respond. I was too busy talking to Elena Ramirez, an attorney who specialized in family financial disputes. You have an excellent case, she said, reviewing my bank statements. 3 years of consistent payments, documentation that your father requested the help. You're not on the title, but you have a strong claim to partial ownership based on equitable contribution. What does that mean? It means your parents can't sell that house without settling with you first. Either they buy out your interest, $86,400 plus interest, or you force a sale and take your share. How long would that take? If they fight it, a year, maybe 2. If they settle, we could have this done in 60 days. And if they refuse to settle? Then I file a partition action and the house sells at auction, and they get nothing until your claim is satisfied first. I thought about my mother's bridge club, my father's country club membership, Emma's destination wedding. File the papers, I said. Elena smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. My grandfather paid Elena's retainer. $5,000 I'd pay him back with interest, but he wouldn't hear of it. Consider it my investment in justice, he said. The papers were served 4 days after I was discharged from the hospital. My father called me sobbing, actually sobbing. Diana, what have you done? This will ruin us, ruin our credit. We'll lose everything. You mean you'll lose the house I've been paying for? I was going to pay you back. When? Before I gave your money to Emma for her wedding? Silence. Grandpa told me, I said quietly. He told me everything about your plan to sell, about giving the proceeds to Emma, about never telling me. We were just talking. We hadn't decided. Save it. Talk to your lawyer, talk to mine, but don't call me again unless you're ready to settle. I hung up. My mother's call came an hour later. No tears, just ice. You're destroying this family. No, I'm just done being destroyed by it. Your sister is devastated. Her wedding isn't my responsibility. It never was. We gave you everything, Diana. We raised you. We supported you. You supported me? I've been paying your mortgage for 3 years. I've been the only one supporting anyone. That was your choice. Because Dad begged me. Because you taught me that being strong meant carrying everyone else's weight while pretending I didn't need anything myself. You were always so dramatic. And there it was, the final, unforgivable dismissal. Goodbye, Mom. I blocked her number, blocked my father's, blocked Emma's. Then I sat in my apartment with my daughter sleeping in my arms and cried. Not from sadness, from relief. Because for the first time in my life, I'd chosen myself. The legal battle took 8 weeks. Elena was ruthless. She documented everything, every payment, every text message, every witness who could verify my parents' requests for help. She built a case so airtight that their attorney recommended settlement within 3 weeks. The offer came through Elena, $90,000. My $86,000 in payments plus $4,000 in interest. They're also offering to sign a waiver releasing you from any future financial obligations, Elena said. Basically, they're acknowledging they have no claim on you. What about the house? They're keeping it, refinancing to pay you out. They'll be fine. They'll just have a mortgage payment again. I thought about accepting, about taking the money and walking away clean. Then I thought about my mother's voice. Your sister just never has these emergencies. Counteroffer, I said. $105,000. And I want a written apology from both of them. Not for the court, for me, acknowledging what they did and how they treated me. Elena raised an eyebrow. The money they might do. The apology, that's asking for something money can't buy. I know, but I need to know if they're capable of seeing what they did. If they're not, then I want nothing to do with them. Ever. And if they refuse, then we go to court, and I take everything. They refused the apology. My father called Elena directly. I'll pay the $105,000, but I won't be extorted into some humiliating confession. I did nothing wrong. So we went to court. The partition action forced the sale of the house. It sold at auction for $680,000. After the existing mortgage and legal fees, there was $412,000 left. I was entitled to 1/3 based on my documented contributions. $137,333. My parents split the remaining $275,000. Enough to rent a smaller house, not enough for Emma's Italian wedding, not enough for the life they'd planned. Emma got married at a local country club, 50 guests instead of 200. No Positano, no destination anything. I know because my grandfather showed me the photos. He was the only one invited. It was nice, he said carefully. Modest. Emma looked beautiful. I'm glad, I said, and I meant it. I didn't want Emma to suffer. I just needed to stop sacrificing myself for her happiness. The hardest part wasn't the legal battle. It was the silence after. No more family group texts, no more holiday invitations,
No more calls that I had to screen and stress about answering. Just nothing. I thought it would feel lonely. Instead, it felt like freedom. I used the settlement money carefully, paid off my student loans, $42,000, set up a college fund for Lily, $50,000, down payment on a small 2-bedroom house with a backyard, $40,000. The rest went into savings and repairs on the house. For the first time in 6 years, I could breathe. I started therapy, real therapy, with a woman named Dr. Sarah Chen, who specialized in family trauma and codependency. You were parentified, she explained in our 3rd session. You were taught that your worth was measured by your usefulness, that love was transactional, that being strong meant suppressing your needs. I know that now. Knowing it and believing it are different things. Your family trained you to be invisible, to shrink. You're going to have to actively practice taking up space. So I practiced. Small things at first. Saying no when coworkers asked me to cover their shifts, buying myself fresh flowers every week, taking Lily to the park in the middle of the day instead of cramming it between errands. Bigger things later. Applying for a position at Children's Hospital. Better hours, better pay. Getting it. Decorating my house exactly how I wanted, with bright colors and plants and photographs of Lily and my grandfather. Building a life that didn't revolve around making myself smaller so others could be bigger. 6 months after the settlement, my mother called from an unknown number. "Diana, it's Mom." I almost hung up. Almost. But curiosity won. "What do you want?" I wanted to tell you that your father had a heart attack. He's okay, but he's in the hospital." My stomach dropped despite everything. "Is he going to be okay?" "Yes. They put in a stent. He'll need to change his lifestyle, but he'll recover." "I'm glad." Silence. Then, "He's been asking for you." "Has he?" "Yes. He wants to talk, to apologize." I looked out my kitchen window at Lily playing in the backyard with my grandfather, at the swing set I'd installed last month, at the garden I was planting, tomatoes and herbs and flowers. I said, "Tell him I hope he recovers fully, and tell him if he wants to apologize, he can write me a letter. I'll read it, but I'm not ready to see him." "Diana, I'm not angry anymore, Mom, but I'm also not available to be hurt again. If Dad wants a relationship with me, he needs to actually acknowledge what he did, not just feel bad because he had a health scare. You're so unforgiving." "No, I just finally learned that forgiveness doesn't mean accepting more pain." I hung up. The letter never came, and I was okay with that too. It's been 18 months since the accident now. Lily is 2 years old. She takes dance classes and has my grandfather wrapped around her tiny finger. She doesn't know about the family she doesn't see. The grandparents who chose Bridge Club over her safety. The aunt who thinks Instagram followers matter more than showing up. Maybe someday I'll tell her. Maybe I won't, but I'll make sure she knows she's loved. Unconditionally. Not for what she provides, but for who she is. My grandfather is still my best friend, still watches Lily 1 day a week while I work, still calls me Little Bird. He's 83 now, and every moment with him feels precious. I ran into Emma 6 months ago at the grocery store. She was pregnant, glowing. She looked at me like I was a stranger. "Diana, hi." "Hi, Emma. Congratulations." "Thanks." She touched her belly. "It's a girl." "That's wonderful." Awkward silence, then, "Mom says you won't talk to them." "That's not entirely accurate. I told them I'd read a letter. I'm waiting." "They think you're being stubborn." "They're entitled to think that." "Don't you miss us?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and I realized something profound. I didn't miss them. I missed the idea of them, the family I'd wanted them to be. But the actual people? The ones who'd used me and dismissed me and erased me? No, I didn't miss them at all. "I miss who I thought you were," I said honestly, "but I don't miss who you actually are." Her face crumpled. "That's cruel." No, it's honest. And maybe if more people had been honest with you, if I'd been honest instead of accommodating, things would be different. I walked away, and I felt nothing but peace. Here's what I learned. You can't sacrifice yourself into being loved. You can't earn worth from people who've already decided you don't matter. You can't build connection with people who see you as a resource instead of a person. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't carrying the weight, it's putting it down. I used to believe that silence was safety, that not asking for help meant I didn't need it, that being strong meant being alone. Now I know that silence was survival, that asking for help is courage, that being strong means choosing yourself even when it costs you everything else. My daughter will never learn that her value is measured by her usefulness. She'll never be taught that love is something you have to earn. She'll never wonder if she matters, because I'll make sure she knows every single day that she does. That's my revenge. Not hurting them, not destroying them, but breaking the cycle they created and building something better. I'm Diana Wesley. I'm 30 years old. I'm a pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital, and I own a small house with a backyard where my daughter plays and my grandfather tells stories and flowers grow in neat rows I planted myself. I'm no longer the strong one who carries everyone's weight. I'm just strong enough to carry my own. This was another story from Revenge Room, where we turn pain into purpose and betrayal into balance. Please don't forget to subscribe and join us for the next transformation. Have you ever been betrayed by someone who was supposed to protect you? How did you rebuild trust? What's one thing you learned about yourself after a betrayal? Share one moment in your healing journey that changed everything in the comments below. I read every one, and remember, you're not alone.